Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Alien Protocols, the Advanced Protocols Data Project. There are countries around the world who are racing to master anti-gravity. They are racing to master this technology and the other technologies displayed by these advanced aerial vehicles, not for peaceful exploration of the universe, but for weapons. They will immediately convert any technology learned from AAVs, from UFOs, into weapons. And you can imagine what that means. Weightless, invisible to all radar, hypersonic weapons. There is a real race between these countries. But what we are failing to realize is that it's not about a race between China or Russia or the United States or Israel. It's about the human race. At this point in technology, at this point in the mass extinction that's going on in our biosphere, we have to think much bigger than we have myopically in the past. This anti-gravity technology, this technology that's going to free us, liberate us from our planet, could also kill us. The energy and the power and the abilities that these craft are slowly giving us are very dangerous technologies. And if we want to travel amongst the stars, if we want to be that race, exploring the universe, we're going to have to do it together, as a species, and not as countries. But how does this technology work? How does anti-gravity work? How will we be able to travel amongst the stars? Well, there's something called the zero-point energy field. Vacuum energy, there's many different names for it. As we've spoken about before on this channel, the universe hates nothing. The universe abhors nothing. It's impossible to find nothing in this universe. If you take a bottle, a metal bottle, and you suck out all of the air, all of the atoms, all of the molecules out of it, you're not left with nothing. You're left with the zero-point vacuum energy field. And this is essentially a field that has virtual particles spring out of nowhere and then annihilate with their antimatter particle and disappear. And this short-term, incredibly quick process, incredibly tiny, happens all around us, inside us, everywhere. And this force that it exerts on matter is the Casimir force. And if you can decouple yourself from the vacuum field, you get anti-gravity and power. So the faster you go, the more free power you get. Which is pretty amazing. You get a 2-for-1 there. And there's a lot of theories, and most likely several ways to have anti-gravity propulsion and power. Now, of course, there's the Higgs field that was recently discovered, and of course, gravity waves that were discovered by LIGOs. So let's say you have decoupled yourself from the vacuum energy field. And we'll go into some different ways to do that in a minute. And let's say you master this force called dark energy. You don't necessarily need to have an Alcubierre drive where you have gravity wave here and a gravity wave back here and the craft slides forward. You could do it a simpler way. You could just apply direct energy to one side of your craft and you'd be propelled. Now these virtual particles that come in and out of existence, there's a lot of speculation about them. There's a lot of speculation about them. And people are always asking me, well, how does any of that connect with entanglement and a consciousness field and all of that? Well, they're separate things. If you want to decouple yourself from matter and the vacuum field, you could take a hypothetical tic-tac shaped craft like this, and you make sure that the surface is created with a latticed structure, a fractal type lattice that repeats its size in different size scales. But the size of these scales are all uniform, and that when they're resonated at the right frequency, at the right terahertz, they will decouple from the surrounding matter. They will essentially become anti-gravitational. Now, of course, you could add a catalyst liquid to have other effects, and you could also have rotating superconductive magnets. And everybody knows that if you have rotating magnetic fields, very interesting things happen. So there's a lot of ways that all of these things connect. How black holes connect to vacuum energy, to anti-gravity, to energy, to gravity manipulation. Even thoughts of negative matter, which I don't necessarily think exist in terms of the way some people think it exists. But ultimately, you can use this understanding of the zero-point field, this vacuum energy, or the Higgs field, or any of these different methods to do something called constraint vectoring, which is applying a force to one side of the craft, pinching it, squeezing it like through a tube of toothpaste in one direction or the other. And of course, there's the cold fusion warp drive, and there's a way to incorporate this cold fusion into the surface of the craft, and the craft creates tiny little warps and pushes you through space. That simultaneously gives you fusion energy. There are so many different confusing ways and methods, and this crazy race amongst countries isn't a race to save our biosphere. It's a race against each other, when what really matters is all of us. Hopefully we will realize soon that we need all of us together, that we're all one race, and we're not enemies, that there's no real borders between us. There should be no real borders between our children or us as adults. Anyway, I know this was a ramble and a jumble and a vomit of a lot of different science explained inadequately. But I thought it would be an interesting discussion to gloss over. Much love to you and yours.